when I was asked to do Burnt Stones, I kind of really wondered what was newsworthy about my life. I have a pretty ordinary life, but realised that I serve an extraordinary God, and looking back, that there are newsworthy events. I grew up in the Midlands on a farm. My dad was a farmer. I grew up with my mum and dad and my brother, and had a pretty idyllic, amazing life. My parents served God wholeheartedly. I got saved at the age of 6 and was involved at SCA at school, went to Bible college for 2 years, served full time in the church for 2 years, and life was pretty extraordinary actually compared to a whole lot of my friends. But the bubble burst on the 21st of August 1991. I was here in Westville in my flat, and my aunt was knocking on my door at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I kind of, it was a bit disturbing, and she woke me up saying that my father had died. It was surreal. It sort of took a while to settle in, and he had died from 3 massive heart attacks. There were no signs of it. He was a fit, agile, still hockey-playing man. He was young. He was 52, and kind of the wheels kind of fell off for a while. My mom was only 46 when she was a widow. My brother was 19, 20, and took over the farm, and they kind of got on with life and could deal with grief in a very real way, because they had to be there where he had been every day. I came back to Westville. I was at university, still involved in the church, had amazing friends, but none of them really understood what it was like to lose a parent. Not only that, he was a kind, generous, amazing man, German by heritage, so had a bit of marching orders when we were at home, but life was really easy with him around. I still loved God wholeheartedly, was involved in the church, but deep down I had resentment. I had questions. Why had my godly, amazing father been taken away? And I looked around me, and there were ungodly men who were unrighteous, and they were still around. And that's God's amazing grace. He was giving them time. My dad was ready. But the way it affected me was that I didn't know how to deal with my grief openly. I pushed all my feelings down, kind of got on with life, which was still amazing. I went to university. I met John, my amazing husband, at church. We got married, and after about 3 years we started a family. I had 2 miscarriages, and our 16-year-old daughter was born exactly to the hour to my first miscarriage, on the same day. And it was just God's amazing abundance in our life. And so we carried on, and life was amazing. It was just, well, that's what everyone thought. on the outside, that's what it looked like. I'd learned how to cover up emotions. I'd learned how to sort of put on that mask before leaving the door, smiley face, let's carry on. And deep down, I was really struggling with being a new mom. I was struggling with the loss of my father. I was struggling with the loss of 2 children. And when Amy was about 18 months old, they diagnosed me with clinical depression. But it was a long road getting there. As a Christian, you're not supposed to be sad. As a Christian that served God for many years, from the age of 6, and I really knew God, and I loved worshiping Him. I loved spending time with Him. I spent time in His Word, and yet deep down there was this incredible guilt of feeling sad. And as much as Christians were trying to help, they actually made it worse. The understanding of clinical depression was so out of the box of normal Christianity that there was no way I felt help from anyone, except my mom, who really knew God intimately and spoke into my life, and a friend who understood what clinical depression was as she had it. And she really pushed me to see a doctor and to deal with these emotions that were underneath. So with that kind of help, I could really see God moving. I could see God as I spent time with Him, and I did the things that I did all the time, and that's worship Him, love Him. And through the help of doctors and medication, which I really believe God had put in my path, I came to a place where I didn't feel so guilty. There was such guilt attached to being depressed. There was such a misconception on the behalf of the Christian community of what clinical depression is. It's the same as having diabetes. If you don't take your insulin, you really, really struggle. In fact, you never get healthy and you never get well. So it's almost 14 years on, and I know that God has made an amazing impact in my life, where instead of keeping my emotions buried, I'm able to express them and be in a place of peace. In fact, in 2008, when my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, and she only survived 3 months from the day of diagnosis, that people said to me, "How are you coping so well?" And I know it's my amazing God who was there every step of the way. But it's also the fact that I'd gone through it before, and that I'd had people who spoke into my life, and doctors who had previously helped me realize that I don't have to feel guilty about emotions. God's not afraid of our emotions. You know, if I shake my fist at Him, He's not going to crumble. If I get angry at Him, He loves me back. So when this happened, when my mom passed away, I knew that, first of all, that she served God with all her heart. But I could cope with what came my way, because peace and being in a place of peace is not an absence of war, but it's building that haven in the middle of a war. And that's what God's peace is. It's being completely at home in the middle of tribulation.